In this video I'm going to show you 4 separate background techniques, but I'm also going to show you how they can be layered together in one finished project. This first background is called acrylic and alcohol, and for this I'm using transparent yellow iron oxide. First I'm going to mix approximately 50% water to the fluid acrylic using a mop brush. Once mixed, simply apply to the substrate. For this next stage I'm going to be using a product called Isopropanol. Now you could use surgical spirits or rubbing alcohol, and I'm just going to drop small droplets into the wet paint, and you'll see it start to disperse as soon as it hits. And I'm going to continue with this over the whole surface. So once this is complete, we'll allow this to dry, and that's background 1. One thing I would just say, I often have a test piece, so before I go onto my main substrate I'll test on a test piece, and it avoids mistakes onto your main piece. Next up is a splash technique, and we're going to be using quinacridone burnt orange for this. Now I'm not going to add any water to this whatsoever, I'm just going to apply one coat over the complete surface. And you'll notice it's a quinacridone pigment, which they're very transparent, and you can actually see that background beneath the colour that I'm applying. Now while the paint's still wet, I'm going to splash on a product from Deco-Art called Easy Float. You could also use their dry and time extender, and you could also use water, but I find the Easy Float and the dry and time extender that it has more surface tension, and it gives you very crisp edges around the splashes. Now once I finish splashing, I'm going to allow the paint to dry thoroughly. The paint's now dry, so I'm going to lay a sheet of paper over the top and just rub gently. And when you remove it, it's going to remove the Easy Float and the paint. It gives you quite a cool print. There you go. And I'm now just going to wipe any excess moisture that's left on the substrate. Next I'm going to stamp on the surface, but before I do I'm going to give it a coat of the medium matte medium. This acts as a protective barrier, so if anything goes wrong with the stamping I can easily wipe back. I'm only wiping back to the actual matte medium and not the acrylic paint below. So I'll allow the matte medium to dry, and then I can start stamping. And for this I'm going to be using archival ink. You could use StazOn, but if you're using StazOn, make sure the pad's really juicy and you only press onto the acrylic paint lightly. Otherwise it can grip the acrylic paint and make a real mess. The next technique is Acrylic Resist. Now you could use Vaseline for this, petroleum jelly. I'm going to use it's a matte clay for hair, and it's a much tougher consistency, so I normally just heat it to make it more fluid. Now once heated, I'm just going to apply this to areas that I don't want the next layer of paint to cover. So especially the main image in the middle, I want to keep that. So I should just cover it with the matte clay. And also add a little bit randomly here and there. I don't want to cover up too much of the background. Next I'm going to add a layer of cobalt turquoise hue. And now with a large brush I'm just going to gently, you don't want to use hard brush strokes for this, you don't want to disturb that matte clay or the petroleum jelly beneath. And you'll see this blue is a lovely transparent blue again, so you can actually see the background through the blue. Now it's all dry, so I'm just going to heat the surface, and this will make the matte clay a lot more fluid, and it will mean the paint will remove a lot easier. And now, just with a soft cloth, I'm going to remove the paint, and you can see how easily it comes away. And then finally, with a damp cloth, I'm going to remove any more residue. Now I'm going to repeat this process again. So another layer of the matte clay. And now we're going to use blue-green light. And this is exactly the same as the step before. Now for the final technique, which is called the torn paper effect. It's a very similar technique to the one before, using the matte clay, and we're going to be using titanium white. So I'm going to apply a layer of the matte clay. I'll heat it first. And then I'm going to cover a lot of the areas of the background with the matte clay now. And then apply one coat of titanium white over the whole surface. I'll now allow this to dry. The paint is now dry, and I'm going to stamp over the top with a dictionary style stamp, and I'm using archival ink. For best results you really should use StazOn, but again you must make sure that the pad is nice and juicy. If you press too hard on acrylic paint with StazOn, it will kind of stick to it and pull the acrylic paint away. Don't worry too much if a little bit of paint comes away, that's just the matte clay releasing the paint. So I'm going to use archival, and once I've stamped I just need this archival to set. You could use the heat tool over it slightly, but I'm going to walk away for about 20-25 minutes. I'm now simply going to wipe back with a soft cloth. This should give us the look of torn dictionary pages on the surface. Now if you see the archival ink smudging, it really does mean that the archival ink just has not set. You shouldn't get this problem with StazOn, but like I say, as long as you have a juicy pad and you don't press too hard. As we zoom in, you can really see the effect that it gives of the torn paper. Now I'm just going to finish this off by toning it down slightly, and I'm going to give a light coat of transparent yellow iron oxide over the complete surface, especially over the paper. You could leave it white, completely up to you, but for me this just really works. Now although I've shown you the colours I've used for these techniques, you can use whatever colours you like. There really are no rules. And there we go, finished. For more information about the media range, please visit Deco-Art.com.